There are things that are worth our time to do to save money, and then there are some things that just are not worth our time and they're not effective. I'm going to share with you in this video some of the things that I find to be worth my time and some that don't. Welcome everyone. I am Bonita from Pennies to Dollars, and this is a frugal channel with some Depression era tips thrown in there as well because my parents were Depression era. I also talk about things as I'm going through empty nest, early retirement, and living on savings until my retirement kicks in at whatever age they decide to let us have our Social Security. So today we are going to talk about some things that I find to be so important that I just pretty much make them a rule, a standard rule that I follow. And a couple that don't, but yet they circulate around and I kind of feel like I need to draw attention to it. So let's get started today. The first thing that I find to be absolutely worth my while is to have less reliance on purchased items. I'm focusing on that since I retired early at the end of October. I'm doing as many things as I can for myself, including making my own spices, making things that I can do at home with things I already have. And in this video, I'm going to share a recipe with you for that Lipton onion soup mix knockoff that we can make at home instead of purchasing. So stick around for that. The second thing is I feel like there are too many choices, too many conveniences that are offered to us, and that makes it difficult for us to save money. I prefer to use the old simple ways, the old simple stuff that I can do rather than the newer, more modern ways of doing things to make things easier on myself. Usually those things are going to cost me money. And since I am early retired, I look at those things as, is it worth it? Is it worth it for me to spend a bunch of money on this when I could do better? So spinning off that last concept, the next one goes right along with it. I believe in saving money whenever I can, even if I don't need to right then. It will always come in handy later. There will be things that come up that I will be glad that I saved money when I could. Sometimes we get a raise or we get an extra check in the mail we didn't expect, and we think, wow, what could I do with this that I really want to do? I lean towards, I'm going to stick this back because something may come up that I may really want to do, like a vacation, or something may come up like a repair I need to make around the house, and I'm going to be glad that I stuck that back because I didn't have a plan for it when I got it. So I'm not going to make a plan just because it landed on my doorstep. That is one of the concepts that I believe in, saving wherever I can, even if I don't need to. I also prefer to keep money in my pockets rather than paying it to the electric company. I go to the effort of unplugging things, keeping breakers off of things that we don't use regularly, like the dryer, keeping the breaker off to the electric hot water heater, except for about 30 minutes every 2 days, because that's all that we need. And just doing those things around the house has saved me about $1,200 a year in extra electrical costs. Yes, it added up to that much in my little old farmhouse. Things were plugged in spare rooms that no one was in. Chargers were left plugged in all day while people were at work because they were backup chargers. Those things all became unplugged and only plugged in when we used them, and it made a huge difference in my finances. I also look at what can I do that's reusable instead of disposable or purchased. I have eliminated paper plates except for when we maybe have a picnic with a bunch of people or we're in the camper. I have eliminated cloth napkins, paper towels, all of these extra household costs that added to my grocery bill but really didn't benefit us that much. And those made a huge difference. When I look back now, I'm like, how did I afford to buy all of that stuff when things were tight? What did I leave out that I shouldn't have left out? Or did it make me stay in debt longer because I was buying all of these extra household items? Those things have all been eliminated from my budget. So along that line, I want to tell you something that I don't think is worth it. I see a lot of videos circulating about how to make your own homemade Clorox wipes out of paper towels. Well, I fell for it once and I tried to cut them in half and it made the biggest mess ever. Plus, they don't hold together, even if you buy the more expensive kind. So then I started thinking, you know, I was a nursing home administrator. I don't even think this will work. And I thought about when we made a Clorox solution in the nursing home, we kept our rags in it in the kitchen to clean. And we would make the Clorox solution, we would put our rags in it. We had a parts per million strip that we would have to test it to make sure that it was in the right range to actually kill germs. And then we had to change it about every 4 hours to keep that parts per million effective so that it would actually disinfect. So I'm sitting here thinking, how in the world would you make Clorox wipes and it stay disinfecting for long periods of time until you used half of that roll? So I did a little research, and I will link this in the description box so that you can see this. But it actually tells you that bleach and water solutions need to be made fresh every single day. We did it every 4 hours because the active component in bleach with your tap water will break down into salt and water. The ready-to-use products, however, are formulated with a 1-year shelf life when properly stored away from direct sunlight and in a cool, dry place. That means it's pretty impossible for us to make this at home unless we're making it to use it right then. That solution actually even needs to sit there about 30 minutes before you use those rags. And there are different formulas for different diseases. There's a 1,500 parts per million and a 2,000 parts per million. That's all in the description box in this article. But for our purposes, the 15 parts per million works. And if you're wanting to just make rags that you can clean with, that would be 2 cups of water and 2 teaspoons of Clorox on your rags. And that should give you the right parts per million for household use. So when people are making those paper towels and putting them in there, they're not going to be effective. So don't waste your money on those expensive paper towels or on mixing all of that up, because it's not going to be effective other than the day that you made it. And I doubt you're going to use a half of a roll of paper towels the rest of the day and use up that entire container of them that we made. That would have equaled about an entire container of Clorox wipes. Now I'm going to flip over and we're going to do that onion soup recipe. So let's make that onion soup mix that they sell in the store. As you know, it is so expensive. I used to buy the off-brand, but when I can make it from home and there's no wheat included when my husband is gluten-free, that's what I'm going to do. And it's so cost effective to make. So let's get started. So what you're going to need is parsley, paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, salt, minced onion, and sugar. That is all that goes into this recipe that we are buying off the shelf that's very expensive. Let's get it mixed up. I already have my jar and I have it marked onion soup mix. 5 tablespoons of this is going to equal 1 packet. And I made the measurements right on my label so I won't forget. So let's get started mixing this up. It'll make a decent amount and you'll realize how easy this is to make. So I started off with minced onion, and I got this at Dollar Tree, I believe. And it is 2 ounces. Well, 2 ounces is exactly the amount that we need because we need 1/2 of a cup. So I'm going to add that into my jar. We're going to get that 1/2 of a teaspoon of sugar in there. And then we need 3 teaspoons of parsley, which, as we know, that equals a tablespoon. So I'm going to do a tablespoon of parsley. 2 teaspoons of onion powder. 1 teaspoon of paprika. 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. And 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper. And that's all that goes into this recipe. So I'm just going to put the lid on it, shake it. You can double this, triple this. This is all the minced onion I have right now. And you have your own onion soup mix. How easy was that? So yeah, this is my goal this year. Make as many of the things as I can at home that I've been purchasing to be as self-sufficient as possible. One of the other concepts that I do not believe in is having auto pay. I've touched on this before, and if you're new to my channel, you may be saying, whoa, what is she talking about? Auto pay is great. Well, auto pay can get you into trouble. Auto pay made me pay more money than I needed to pay. And let me give you some scenarios when that happened. I wanted to close my checking account and I was being charged a monthly fee that didn't used to happen, and they started charging me this monthly fee. It took me months and months and months of paying that fee to get all of those auto pays stopped and redirected. Every time I thought that I caught them all, there was another one coming through and another one coming through. We had this problem with our business as well. 2 different services we canceled. One for a website and one to do the books with an online account. I canceled them when we sold our business. The next year I was billed again, several $100s. I had to spend a bunch of time on the phone to get that taken off. And then it happened again the second year. With both of these businesses, I was charged around $700 the next year for 2 years on an annual membership that I had canceled, which is why I believe that we should check our credit card statements every day and our bank account statements every day. That's how we truly know what is being taken out of our accounts. We don't always know if we don't track that. And if we don't catch those charges like right away, it's hard to get them reversed. It's hard to get the company to give you the money back, and it turns into a battle. We had a credit card company that we had their service. We canceled their service, and they continued to take money out of our account for 4.5 years at our business. And every time I called and told them, they said, well, that's not us. We've been sold. We sold to this person. And then you called them and they're like, oh, that's not us. We sold to this person. And we could not put our finger on who was taking the money out of our account. The bank couldn't tell us. It was just an auto withdrawal. And it continued for 4.5 years. We finally had to get a lawyer to research it all, to find the culprit, to get it stopped, and to get our money back. So I've been through some pretty heinous situations with auto withdrawal, and that's one of the reasons that I do not like to do it. I feel like it is a money trap. I feel like it's very hard to get something like that stopped when you've started it, and it's hard to get a hold of the right person that will actually stop it when they say that it's stopped. And then my last concept that I live by is I love to travel. That's where a lot of my extra money will go that we save back, is on vacations. But when I travel, I still live like a local. Many of you know that I wintered in Texas this last year after I retired for 3.5 months. I lived in my RV and it was very cost effective. I even did a video on what it cost me to do that. And it was so affordable that I know I can do it again if I want to. But the trick is I had my own kitchen in the RV. When we travel, I try to make sure we have a kitchen so that we can at least have a meal or a breakfast or coffee or something that we can make locally and not have to pay for everything that we are doing. I look for a lot of free things to do. I make the vacation as affordable as possible, but still as enjoyable as possible. So I stayed in Texas for 3.5 months. I sightseed a ton of things. I went to Mexico twice. I did so many great, wonderful things, and it was all totally affordable. Under $1,200 a month was my living expenses and all of my spending. So you can get out there and travel. You just have to live like a local. So I hope that these concepts that I live by might have helped you, or even given you an idea of things you can tweak in your lifetime, or maybe even spurred some creative ideas that you can share with us in the comments. I'm so thankful for all of you. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope to see you in the next video. If you would like to support this channel in any way, I have 2 Depression era cookbooks linked in the description box below, along with other low-cost items that I use to save money in my home. Have a great week.